Okay, so in literacy today, we are going to write a newspaper based on the book that we've been reading in class, The Boy in the Tower. So we already did an explanation text about depression and anxiety, and lots of reading activities, and we have also created our own survival guide. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to create a newspaper report. I'm going to kind of give you a lot of choices as to when that newspaper report is going to be written. So you can write the newspaper report based on something that you have already read in the past in class, something that we have recently done, or something in the future. All it has to be is a newspaper report and it has to feature all of the features, or as many of the features of the newspaper report as you can include. So we're going to go over those in a second. I've got some written down. So what's going to happen, out of all of my videos, that ask you to get yourself a pen and a paper. I've got a whiteboard and a pen with some information from before. I would like you to have that so that at any point when I ask you to pause the video, pause, go along with the information down. So, okay, the first thing you need to do, I'm going to say pause the video and go and get your stuff. Okay, so now that you have all your bits and pieces, ask you a question. Ask you a question is, what parts of the story you feel are newsworthy? And what I mean by that is not what someone might find interesting, like one person, what a lot of people find interesting. So, for example, maybe that guy stole the seeds from Miss Faraway is probably not going to interest the general public, but maybe the buildings falling down might. So, like before, I'm going to ask you to pause the video and I'm going to ask you to come up with many parts of the story you can remember that you feel are interesting enough. Newspaper article about them. So, on your marks, get set, pause. Okay, so you've written down all that you can come up with. So, here are some examples I come up with earlier. We could have all of the buildings falling down, the mysterious deaths of the two police officers, schools closing, which you definitely know quite a lot about now, especially if you're watching this video, the bleachers actually existing, people fleeing the towns and cities to go somewhere else, like when Guy's family, they left, didn't they? They left Peckham or Camberwell, I believe, to go Brighton. Okay, so now you've got an idea of what you're going to focus on. I'm going to focus on the buildings falling down today. I give myself one idea. You don't need to concentrate on that idea. So the first thing I need to do is I need to pause down every single thing that I can remember about that experience. So what's going to happen is I would like you to pause this video and then try and write down every part of the, so choose an idea and then write down every single part of it that you can remember. On your marks, go. Okay, so for my idea with the buildings falling down, I know I can write about all of the buildings have fallen down. Because the buildings are falling down, that's resulting in, sadly, lots of people losing their lives. Another part of the article that I can focus on. Another part of the article I can focus on how this has happened. Did the buildings crumble and just fall from the top? Did they explode? Like, what happened to the buildings? The next question I feel like the public are going to want to ask or find out, why did this happen? Why did they falling down? So at the moment, in my one, I'm going to focus on, I'm going to add that mysterious vibe to it, okay? And then they're also going to want to know, or going to want to know, what's going to happen next. So can you write down the same deal? So why, how, when, what's going to happen? Really important that you answer all of those questions, okay? Try and write down as much of that information as you can, because when you go to actually do your newspaper report, you won't just say, there's some scary plants and they killed loads of people and everyone's worried. You're going to have lots of information. Remember, you want to keep your reader interested. You don't want to just tell them everything straight away. You want to put one point in this paragraph. Sorry to put a pencil close. 1 point in this paragraph, 1 point in this paragraph. The reason we want to do that is we want to keep our reader really, really interested. Okay, but before we write a newspaper report, we need to make sure we're hitting the features. So I know you've done the features of a newspaper report many times, probably throughout your life in Hemwick. How many of them can you remember? So again, I'm going to ask you to pause your video. I want you to try and list as many features of a newspaper report as you can. I made one earlier as my video was loading. I managed to come up with 10. Can you come up with at least 5? So I recommend spending about 2 minutes on this activity. When we're in class, if you were talking to your partners or someone on your table, you'd probably have quite a lot of time and you bounce ideas off one another. So you pause the video, come up with as many as you can. My target is 5. If you can manage to get 10 or even more than 10, you beat me and you win. Okay, so pause the video, off you go. Okay, so how many did you come up with and how easy was it? I know sometimes when you get put on the spot, it can be quite difficult to come up with ideas. So here are some of the ideas I came up with. So of course, all newspapers need to have a big headline on the front. It can be funny, it can be silly, it can be straight to the point. You need to have a headline. It needs to make your reader want to read the newspaper. If your headline was something happened to some of the buildings and we don't really know why, full stop, I don't feel like he's going to grab them in. Whereas if I put hundreds die in disaster, exclamation mark, like a lot of people are going to really want to know about that. So you're going to need to have a headline. You're also going to want to include facts. Why am I going to want to include facts in there? Just thinking, why am I going to want to include facts? It's important to include facts so that you manage to actually relay the story to your reader and that your reader knows what's going on. Okay, and that might include names, dates, times, any information that you feel like your reader knows or needs to know. Okay, you don't need to tell them what they had for breakfast. You don't need to tell them maybe what colour the bricks are, for example, in my case, but it's just information your reader, you feel like they need to know. Okay, you might have pictures, because if you just had loads of writing, it's possible that some of your readers will be switched off. So you want to have some pictures in there. You're going to want to write in the past tense. Why am I writing in the past tense? I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do when you're going to be thinking. I told you today in class that these videos are going to be cringe, so I promised on that. So you're going to want it to be past tense because obviously it's already happened. If it's making the news, the event has occurred. So make sure it's in the past tense. You're also going to want to write in third person, because unless you were actually someone who experienced it directly, which chances are if you write for a newspaper, you probably were not, you want to write in the third person. So you won't be using pronouns like I. You'll be saying things like they or the event occurred. You're not no first person. So always third person, please. You're going to want to use emotive language. You're going to use language that really grabs your reader and pulls them in. You know, you don't want to say the buildings fell down and it was a bit bad because people died. You want to put like mass devastation has occurred on a phenomenal scale in southeast London as thousands of innocent people sadly lost their lives to this epic disaster. It's just a little bit more powerful than the buildings fell down and some people died. You use really powerful language, your reader's going to be more engaged. Readers more engaged, they're going to read. Okay, you're going to use quotes. Okay, in guided reading, we always go on about quotes, quoting the text, quoting the text. You're going to quote somebody that was there. This is your opportunity to invent someone. It can be someone who lives in a building, someone who watches a building. It can be male, female, young, old. It doesn't really matter. It's just going to be something they say. If you include a quote, it needs to be in speech marks and it needs to have a capital letter and a full stop. But that's going to be in first person probably. So for example, if there was a man on the scene, he might say, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The building was just there, and before you know it, it started to smash to the ground. I've never been more scared. The beautiful thing of quotes is it's someone talking that you can kind of experiment with language. It doesn't necessarily have to be too formal. Okay, you might have direct and indirect quotes. So some direct quotes will be in their speech marks, or you might just say, a man who wishes not to be named told me he saw the building fall down. rather than I saw the building fall down, said the man. And we've done grammar quite a few times. That's something we can include. You might want to have a caption. So I'm going to give you all a template. Physical template. If you're in school, you're using the purple mash template. You're going to find there's going to be a picture box. It's going to be quite small, but there's going to be an option for you to be a caption. The reason it's important to be a caption is so that your reader actually knows what that is supposed to be. You have to assume that your reader has no idea about any area of this topic. You can never assume they know what's going on. You have to assume they imagine it was an alien. Such a silly thing to say, but imagine an alien. They just landed there. They have no idea what anything is. So you need to really explain what it is. Okay, patronize them if you need to. It's okay. You're going to want to write in chronological order, which means going in time order. So the first incident, then the next incident, then the next incident, and the next incident. It's important because obviously if you're going to create the narrative that's going to run through your newspaper article, you need to actually know what happened and how it happened and the way that it happened. You kind of can't start in the middle and go to the end and go back to the beginning and into the middle again. It's just going to become really muddled. Chances are your reader's not going to. Okay, I'd also like you to include rhetorical questions or maybe a rhetorical question. So I'm going to scratch my chin, which is my really cringe way of getting to things. So why would I include a rhetorical question? Okay, so I would include a rhetorical question because it really makes my reader actually have to sit there and form an opinion of their own. They have to really kind of go over, and the cogs in their brain are going to be turning and turning, and they're going to come up with an idea. I want you to include a rhetorical question. Don't pick too many. If you pick too many, it kind of ruins it a little bit. But one, possibly two at different parts of the story are going to really get your reader to try and form lots of ideas. So what's going to happen is now we've gone over those features, I want you to think about which ones you're going to use. I'd like you to pause the video and try and pick a few, rewind if you need to, and just pick several. You're going to have a caption. You're going to have a headline. You're going to have facts, and you're going to have to be written in the third person. You know what? Actually, let's scrap this. It's such a silly thing to say, so I do apologise. Scrap that. You're going to have quite a lot of different features. Now, what's going to need to happen? I would share your screen with. I would share my screen with you. Purple match is being a little bit painful. So what's going to happen is you're going to get. You know you're on the right template because it will have a title, the Peckham Observer. The Peckham Observer is not a real newspaper, but Camberwell's part of Peckham or next to Peckham. I like Observer newspaper, so we'll join it together. What's going to happen is you will come up with a headline of your own. Try and make it interesting. Grab me in. I want the headline to be something where I grab the reader and bring them as close as possible. Yeah, so pull them in. I then want you to leave the picture to the very end. The reason I want you to leave the picture to the very end, if you draw a beautiful picture, but then you start writing and you feel like the picture doesn't reflect the idea that you have, you're really stuck with that picture. What I'd like you to do, there are 3 or 4 boxes, which means you're going to write 3 or 4 chronological paragraphs. You're going to start off with in the beginning, how it starts. You're going to work through. I would like you to definitely have a quote. Remember, capital letters in speech. And then once you've finished and you've read the newspaper article, what the picture should be will just come to you. You know it will fit. And then that's when you need to worry about your picture and your caption. What I would say to you, try to make it interesting. Use adjectives, use adverbs. So you might say the building, so you might say the tall, dark building fell rapidly like a pack of cards falling to the ground. I've got a noun phrase that I've just used. I've got an adverb that I've just used. I've got a simile that I've just used. I've managed to make a really great sentence, really, really simple. So, adjectives, adverbs, similes, metaphors. Try and keep it really interesting. So, I know this is a lot of knowledge, but if at any point you don't really know what to do, just rewind the video. Remember, you're not writing as Ade. You're writing as just someone who works for a newspaper. Maybe they'll interview Ade, possibly, and you're going to make. I'm going to pretend we're at school. What are we doing today, children? Someone puts their hand up. Today, we're going to write a newspaper article in which we focus on one area of the story that we like. Okay, so again, please, it doesn't have to be about buildings falling down. You've got so much to work with. Just try and think about anybody. If you're just really stuck and you have no idea what to write, you can just write about the buildings falling down, the men dying, or the butchers. But I know so many of you love this book and there's so much knowledge that you have about it. Pick something that's fun. And I really look forward to reading your reports when you finish them. Remember, full detailed sentences. Some of your work's really good. When I marked the explanation text this week, they were a real joy to read. I know that so many of you are very talented with your writing, so show me that. This will be the last week where we're going to do written activities based on this text. Have fun with it and try and make it come to life and jump off the screen at me. So if you need any help, feel free to contact me and I'll get back. Okay, I will see you later. All the best.